Hi guys, I'm Chastity, and this I'm so excited. This is my first living with mental illness question and answer time. I know I'm a few days late. I've just been dealing with some stuff. Um, but I'm doing it now. It will regularly the question and answers will regularly be on Saturdays. So look for the next post on Saturday, and my story with living with mental illness will be on Thursdays. So I should shoot into it. I'm really excited about it. Um, I'm only starting off with 10 questions because I'm gonna be going into pretty big detail about them. It would be really helpful if people would ask me questions in the comment section, or if you were on my Facebook, inbox them to me because I would really like this channel to get going because this is a big subject for me, and I really want to break down the stigma attached to mental illness. So take your time out of your day, just a minute or two, to send me a question. But I should get started, and here we go. Um, the first question that I have is, what does having a mental illness mean to me? And that was asked by my friend Tori. Um, I guess having a mental illness to me means it's like having any other illness. You know, you have to take medication. You gotta keep, you have to keep your updated to everything. You have to make sure you see your doctor. Um, see my therapist for me. Make sure that I'm, doing what I need to, getting enough sleep, eating right, exercising, socializing, not isolating. Pretty much if you had like diabetes or cancer or asthma or high blood pressure or any other medical disorder, you would have to keep up with it. Take your blood pressure, take your medicine, check your sugars. So basically the same thing. Though I do have to say, being mentally ill makes me a little bit more creative. Um, with my writing and my drawing and my painting, but that's gone with a lot of people who have been mentally ill. There are a lot of poets, actors and actresses, painters, artists who have been diagnosed or showed symptoms of mental illness. So, like Van Gogh, Sylvia Plath, Virginia Woolf, Ernest Hemingway, a long list of people. So it kind of, it doesn't make me special, but it does give me some good aspects as long as I'm keeping up with everything. So thank you, Tori, for asking the first question. It's greatly appreciated, and keep them coming. So the second question is, does weight matter with an eating disorder? And that person who asked the question has requested to remain anonymous, which is fine. I understand that people don't want their name out there, and that's okay, as long as you're getting the questions out. So, does weight matter with an eating disorder? No. I mean, it is, doctors tend, and professionals who deal with eating disorder tend to look more towards the lower weight people, but people of all shapes and sizes can have an eating disorder. Myself, if you've seen my last post, talked about having bulimia. At the time of bulimia was worse. I was I was really overweight. I still am, and but I'm a lot better. But anybody can have an eating disorder, male, female, small to big. It doesn't matter. And there are a wide variety of eating disorders. There are not just anorexia. There isn't just anorexia and bulimia. Um, there are so many there's just a wide range and spectrum of disordered eating. So thank you, Anonymous, for your question. Hope to receive more. Thank you. Um, when were you diagnosed with your mental illness, and what were your thoughts and fears? And that was asked by my friend Xavier. Thank you, Xavier. I love you. I love all you guys. Um, I guess I've been dealing with mental illness the majority of my life, about 20 years, 21 years, since I was 7, maybe before that. But when I was officially like diagnosed with, you know, I have several diagnoses, so it's gonna be a long list. My first diagnosis was depression. That was when I was 14. Um, I was sad all the time, and my thoughts were basically, they're gonna put me on more medicine. I was already taking medicine at the time. They were gonna put me on more medicine, just gonna make me gain more weight. Um, but then when I was 19, I was diagnosed with bipolar type 2, which is different than bipolar type 1, where you're more manic and less depressed. In bipolar type 2, you tend to be more depressed and less manic. There are times where I am manic, but I know how to manage that. My thoughts and fears were people going to label me, or will people notice when my mood changes? My fears was being basically stigmatized and put into a box as crazy. My third diagnosis was the bulimia, but I had been dealing with that for a long time, but it was officially diagnosed when I was about 20. Thoughts were people aren't going to believe that I'm bulimic because I'm overweight. My fears were, am I going to get treatment? I'm going to get treated as somebody who is underweight because, I'm overweight. That was one of my fears. PTSD, I've had all my life. Thoughts and fears with that one are, am I going to have to live my whole life with nightmares, with always having to look behind my back when I'm walking down the street? Am I always going to have some type of fear of being alone by myself? So that's what I think about my PTSD. Fourth diagnosis is borderline personality disorder. And my first thought was if you ever seen the movie Girl Interrupted, when they tell her she has borderline personality disorder, my first thought was borderline between what and what. Fears was that basically people weren't going to want to be around me, that people weren't going to want to be associated with me because my moods tended to swing. From if one little incident happened, I snapped. I was out of control. I'm managing that more better now. And my most recent diagnosis is DID, dissociative identity disorder, also known as multiple personality disorder, but the official name is dissociative identity disorder. And how I feel, I'm still working it out, still confused. My thoughts are I don't like losing the time. That's one of my thoughts and fears. And what am I doing during this period of time where I'm blacked out and I'm somebody else, basically? And that's it, for those diagnoses. Thank you, Xavier, for asking a question. It's greatly appreciated. Please keep them coming. Fourth question. What are the different types of personality disorders? Give me one question. I have a little something written up on my phone about that, so I'm going to pull it up. 1 second. Sorry, guys. Okay, so personality disorders are different from organic personality disorders. Just to go, well, organic mental illnesses. I'm gonna go into that a little bit before I go into the different types. Um, as a very organic mental illnesses are on axis 1 in the DSM, and personality disorders are on axis 2 in the DSM. I have a couple. So these disorders aren't usually diagnosed until you're older, usually your early 20s up to your early 30s. And most of the time they're treated with therapy and not medication. They sometimes do give medications to help with the symptoms, but most of the time it's a lot of therapeutic work. So these are the personality types. There are antisocial personality disorder, which consists of a disregard of other person's rights, often crossing the line and violating those rights. It usually starts as a kid and as a teenager and continues into adult's life. Antisocial personality disorder is often referred to as sociopathy. So you might say, the comment, if you see a serial killer, they might have an antisocial personality disorder. So they would be they used to be called sociopaths, but this is the diagnosis for it. Basically, they tend to be, people with this tend to lack empathy, like being able to feel what other people are feeling at the time, and they're callous and cynical of other people's feelings. So symptoms are failure to conform to normal social norms with respect to lawful behaviors as indicated by repeatedly performing acts that are grounds for arrest. The second symptom is deceitfulness, as indicated by repeated lying, use of aliases, or conning others for personal profit or pleasure. 3 is impulsivity, or failure to plan ahead. 4 is reckless disregard for safety or of self or others. 5 is irritability and aggressiveness, as indicated by repeated physical fights or assaults. And 6 is consistent irresponsibility, as indicated by repeated failure to sustain consistent work behavior or honor financial obligations. And number 8, I think it is lack of remorse, as indicated by being indifferent or rationalizing having hurt, mistreated, or stolen from another. Those are the main symptoms for antisocial social personality disorder. Alright, the second one is avoidant personality disorder. People with avoidant personality disorder experience long-standing feelings of inadequacy and are extremely sensitive to what others think of them. That's just the main one. They tend to be being shy, timid, lonely, or isolated. They will react to criticism of blushing or crying. So they tend to be oversensitive. Here are the symptoms of an avoidant personality disorder. Avoids occupational activities that involve significant interpersonal contact because of fears of criticism, disapproval, or rejection. Basically, they tend to avoid interactions with people in fear of being criticized or rejected. Is unwilling to get involved with people unless certain of being liked. Basically, if they don't know you and there is a fear that you won't like them, they won't go out of their way to get to know you. Shows restraints within intimate relationships because of the fear of being shamed or ridiculed. So basically, they are really hard to get intimate with because they might feel like they're not adequate for enough for you. I've known a couple of these people. With therapy, they tend to get better, but I'm like going through the symptoms. Is preoccupied with being criticized or rejected in social situations. So basically, if they go out to a party, the thought running through their mind the whole time is, are they looking at me weird? Is my dress okay? Are they gonna like me? Oh, that girl's looking at me weird. Oh my god, I must not be good enough. Why am I here? I definitely don't fit in with these people. Views themselves as socially inept, personally unappealing, or inferior to others. Basically, like I just said, they don't feel like they're adequate enough to be around people. Is unusually reluctant to take personal risks or to engage in any new activities because they may prove embarrassing. So people with avoidant personality disorder are not the type of people who are going to be like, hey, let's go to a dance class, because they will feel, and I'm not criticizing, I'm not judging, but they will feel like they're inadequate in so many ways. But with help with therapy, it's usually, diagnosed in adulthood, but with the help of therapy, people can get better with this. There's not really any medication, and it's not really a large percent in the general population. Usually around 2.4% people have this in a general population, but with age and therapy, the symptoms will decrease. On to the next one. The next one is borderline personality disorder. My favorite. Not. I have it, so I'll go through the symptoms that I've written down here. Basically, people with borderline, as myself, personality disorder is persuasive pattern with instability in interpersonal relationships, self-image, and emotions. I tend to be impulsive when I get moody, and my moods tend to go from, the best way I can say is from 0 to 10 in 60 seconds. I can go from being happy to crying to, oh, I'm mad, to numb and not feeling anything at all. So we're going to go down to the list of symptoms. Also, people with borderline personalities have this intense fear of abandonment. Especially, that's why I get attached to friends so quickly, because I'm afraid that I will lose my friends if I don't attach onto them quickly. So here we go. The first symptom of borderline personality disorder is frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. 2. A pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships, characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. And I'm going to explain that to you since it's big word. Well, not since it's a complicated explanation. Basically, you'll meet this. Let's say I meet this great guy, for example, and um, he's amazing. He's great. But then he has to cancel our date because he has a family emergency. Oh, he's such an asshole. He's not even worth my time. And that will go from maybe 5 minutes ago, I was just thinking he was the greatest guy to walk on earth to, oh, he's such an asshole. I don't want anything to do with that. And then go back and forth like that. And then he'd be like, oh, I can make it anyways. Oh, he's the greatest guy. He's not an asshole. He's not. So it's kind of weird. Identity disturbance, such as a significant and persistent unstable self-image or sense of self. The best way to explain this symptom for me is when I went to college, for a couple semesters. Um, I switched my major 5 times. First, it was early childcare. Then it was music theater. Then it was dance. Then it was like art. And finally, I landed on psychology / social work, which I'm hopefully going to be doing next year. Impulsivity, or in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging. For example, spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating, and I'm going to throw my eating disorder in there. I have been sexually impulsive in the past. It's getting better, but I do things that are risky. I used to, anyways. So, reoccurring suicidal behavior, gestures or threats or self-mutilating behavior. Basically, for a long time, I self-harmed by cutting or burning. I have several suicide attempts. For those who are my friends on Facebook, you have seen my suicidal threats and statements multiple times. If you're still my friend, I apologize for that. I'm not blaming it on my disorder. I am an adult and I do have my responsibility, but it is part of one of my disorders that I have. Emotional instability due to significant reactivity of mood. For example, intense episodic dysphoria, irritability, or anxiety, usually lasting a few hours and only rarely more than a few days. So basically, like I was saying, I can go from up here to down here, or anger, from happy to angry. It really depends on the situation, and it can last from 30 minutes to 4 hours, but it's not usually more than a day or two. Chronic feelings of emptiness. Basically, numb feeling is what I can explain to you. I feel numb. And inappropriate intense anger or outbursts. Throwing things is for me. I get angry, I start throwing things. I hope nothing sharp is near me because I will throw it. But I've kind of controlled numb down on that, but I used to be a lot worse. And transient stress-related paranoid thoughts or severe dissociative symptoms. I kind of really can't go into that because I do have a dissociative identity, a dissociation disorder, so it's kind of confusing for me on that. But the most common treatment for this disorder is DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. Most of the programs are about a year long, and they go over 4 modules called, one is interpersonal effectiveness, one is uh God, I forgot what I'm called. Interpersonal effectiveness, like crisis management, um, emotional regulation, and then mindfulness. If you want to look it up, I link in some links to it. And then I'm just gonna go over there. But there's a lot more. You just research, just type in personality disorders, and you'll find them. And this was asked by a person, anonymous person who is suffering with bipolar. And the next question is bipolar a personality disorder? Bipolar is not a personality disorder. Bipolar is an organic mental illness, meaning that it's caused by brain chemistry being off. It is an Axis 1 diagnosis in DSM, which means it's not like in borderline personality or avoidant personality disorder. It's all organic. You need to stay on medications. See a therapist is good. Stay healthy, sleep right, eat right. But it is an organic disorder. It's not a personality disorder. And that was also asked by the anonymous with bipolar. So let's see. 6. Here's a fun one. What top 3 songs get you through your rough times? That was asked by my friend Nemo. Okay, 1 is Who You Are by Jessie J. I love that song. Let me go into my playlist because I have a playlist for this actually. I gotta just go into the app. And then Perfect by Pink. And a tie between Hotel California by the Eagles and Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine. So that's 4, but it's tied. Okay, so the next question I have here, which is question number 7. How does dealing with bulimia affect all the other aspects of your life? Social, relationships, physical, spiritual, etc. And how does one seek help for this disorder? And that was asked by Juju Lin. So Juju, thank you. Basically, when I was in full force with my eating disorder, my social life was to a minimum, especially if we were going out to eat, because I'd eat some of my meal and go to the bathroom and purge. In and out the bathroom usually, if there was any food at any events, because I would purge after every time I eat. So that kind of put a dim side on my social activities. Physical was severely damaged at that time when going through my eating disorder. Was in and out the emergency room either with stomach pain or severe dehydration and electrolytes imbalances because of vomiting so much. My physical health was basically down the drain. Still recovering from some of the stuff that I did to my body, but my physical aspect, my teeth are falling out. Um, at that time, my hair was very thin and falling out. My skin was always dry. Like you could write my name. I could write my name in my skin. Um, very tired, like all the time. All I did was sleep. No energy, dizzy, faint, high heart rate, so on and so forth. I damaged my esophagus and my stomach. So there was some really bad stuff that's happened with my eating disorder. And spiritual. Spiritual. Basically, I was hopeless at my when I was at my worst, which was last year. I had no hope. I was suicidal all the time. Didn't think God really gave a damn about me. Kind of stuck to myself in this mentality that this is just how my life is going to be, and I'm just gonna have to deal with it. So, um, and how does one seek help for this disorder? Um, if you have private insurance, there are outpatient treatment eating disorder clinics, which is usually the first step. They don't just throw you inpatient unless you're severely at risk or you're severely underweight. They usually go the outpatient route. Um, if you're in Arizona and you have access, there's only one eating disorder clinic, outpatient eating disorder clinic that takes access, and that's Community Connections. If your eating disorder is severe and you need more help, there are several treatment centers in the U.S., but they are expensive. Um, Call around, try to get scholarships. Um, if you're on Access and you have a case manager through the mental health, the REBA of Arizona, talk to your case manager, have them put in single case agreements, have them stay on top of them. Because if you're not severe enough, if you're like me and you're overweight and you're not severely underweight, they kind of lag. So just keep pushing and pushing for what you need. So thank you, Juju, and your question is appreciated. And you please send more. They're always welcome. How do you cope with your mental illness? This was Mascard. Um, how I cope with my mental illness is basically I know what I have to do to stay healthy, such as, like I said in the first question, taking my meds, getting out the house and doing stuff, exercise at least once a day if I can. I go to some groups at my clinic. Um, take my medication, make sure that I'm sleeping, which is hard, but I try. Um, when things get severe, let's say I've been taking medication and my depression just gets up there, and I'm feeling myself start to go down the road of suicidal ideation, I'll reach out for help. Um, if I feel like I'm a danger to myself, that's when I will take myself inpatient and admit myself to the hospital. But most of the time, I know how to cope with that and how to bounce myself out of those feelings and emotions and find coping skills. Coping skills are a major part of dealing with mental illness. You have to have them. You do because otherwise you'll just end up not learning how to deal with your emotions. A few of my coping skills are music. I love to sing and I love listening to music. Taking walks is major one. Getting physical, swimming, walking, dancing, writing, and my poetry, and now this, doing my vlog. Um, so thank you, Master, for your question, and more welcome. Thank you. 9. What is it like to live with bulimia on a day-to-day scale? What is it that you actually feel about food, and how has it changed for the better through your recovery? What skills did you use to work past it? What was and wasn't helpful to hear from other people? And that was asked by Leah. Thank you, Leah. Um, so I was more bulimic than I was anorexic. So basically, from a day-to-day schedule, is I'd get up in the morning, wouldn't eat breakfast, wouldn't eat lunch, wouldn't eat any snacks, maybe drank a diet soda or two because it didn't have any calories. But finally, from all that restricting, I'd be starving at night and I'd binge. I mean, eating like a whole bag of chicken nuggets in one sitting. Um, and purge. And if I did eat anything with calories during the day, um, that came right up. Um, how I felt my relationship with food was awful. It was either my best friend or my worst enemy. Usually my worst enemy. Um, being the reason why I purged because I felt so guilty for eating food because food wasn't good. Even if it was healthy food, it wasn't good. It was food. It had calories in it. It's gonna kill me. How that has changed, basically. I basically, eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full. I eat about 6 times a day: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. Um, Food isn't the enemy. Food is good for you. Anything is good for you in the right portion size. Um, I need food to live. Food is energy. So, I my relationship has food has gotten a lot better. Um, what skills did you use to work past it? Writing how I felt after I eat is one that I do. Um, Talking about it. I go to EVA, Eating Disorder Anonymous, and I will call up my sponsor and talk to them and see, I'm having a hard time today, staying on my meal plan, I need some help. And then, working through that, realizing that I don't want to go back to inpatient facility, exercising at a healthy amount, doing, everyday things, basically, is what helped me pass the binging and purging. Um, what was and wasn't helpful to hear from other people? Number one for me, in my case, was hearing people say, "Oh, if you lost weight, you'd be so much better." And I was like, listen, even at my worst, I had lost, 80 something pounds at my worst. I was still overweight. People were telling me that, and it was just like, oh, well, obviously, I should do my eating disorders more so I could lose more weight. That wasn't helpful. Another one was, um, just don't throw up. It's easy as that. Um, that didn't help. What was helpful hearing is, one of my favorite sayings is "This too shall pass." Basically, when I get urgy, I say that over and over. It's just an urge. I don't have to act on it. One of my things, checking in with my friend at the time when eating was hard. Knowing that people telling me how far I've come in my recovery and just stick to it. But I am glad that I've been in recovery for 9+ months. This is the longest that I've been in recovery. So I'm proud of myself. So thank you for asking me that question, Leah. It's greatly appreciated. Last but not least, we have our last question of this video. And that is from Shane. And Shane asks, how do you get the energy to pull yourself up when you're dealing with symptoms? Basically, me, when my symptoms are high, I isolate. So I get out the house. I do stuff that I like. I get active. I dance. I swim. I go for walks. I treat myself to stuff that I wouldn't normally treat myself to. I'll get a Sunday, which sounds, counteractive, but once in a while isn't bad. Listen to music. Talk to friends. I don't listen to people when they say get over it, because if you're dealing with mental illness, you know that it's not just easy to get over with. But talking to people, making those as coping skills. I have a notebook filled with coping skills that I use. Crocheting, taking a class, doing things to get you out of your head. Is what I can suggest to you. So thank you for all your questions. I hope to hear more. This is greatly appreciated. I'm really excited about this video. Share it with your friends and family so I can get more questions in. I love answering questions from people. So with that, I'm gonna say au revoir, adios, good night.